What is going on, guys? It's Modded Warfare here. Welcome back to another PS4 tutorial. So I've got a few things to cover in this video. We've got a Homebrew file manager, another one, not PS4 file manager. This is a separate Homebrew file manager from another developer. It's a really good file manager, simplistic, easy to use. It doesn't have, you know, the same kind of bugs that the file manager for PS4 had. So we're going to check that out, as well as Xproject, which is a massive WebKit exploit page. It's got every single payload you could possibly think of under the sun, and a few bonus features. In fact, the developers Default DMB and Lethal have kindly given me a beta version of the next version of Xproject that will be out soon, which actually also has some additional features like fan speed control, so you can adjust fan speed of your PS4. I'll be showing you that, because that is another thing that's come out recently that people have wanted me to cover, and this is the best implementation I've seen of this fan speed control in the new version of Xproject. So yeah, let's go ahead and check out some of this stuff. So for Xproject, you can access the current version on many different websites. I'll put a few of them in the description. There's consolehacks.com/ps4/Xproject if you just want to get one off the internet. You can also self-host it on your own server locally. The files are available. I'll link that in the description as well. You should cache the site before use. But yeah, this is Xproject right here, the current version, not the beta build that I've been given. This is the publicly available one right now. And as you can see, it just has so many payloads. It's kind of ridiculous. So in the quick section, you've got Hen 1.8, bin loader, dumper, and FTP server. Now, those are just, you know, this kind of common payloads that most people use on a daily basis, so that's why they're there in the quick section. Then you've got all the different versions of Hen, so many different versions: Mira plus Hen, Hen 1.7, 1.6, 1.8, VR, light version, screenshot, everyone you could possibly think of. Then you've got the update blockers, so you can unblock and block your system updates, Linux, all the different versions of Linux, including the PSX ITA versions. So you've got the 1GB VRAM version with 7 gigs of RAM. It gives you a nice little description about what the difference is between these payloads. So the VRAM 1 version, you get 1 gig of VRAM, 7 gigs of RAM. If you load the 2GB VRAM version, you get 2 gigs of VRAM, 6 gigs of RAM, and you know, the 3GB VRAM payload. Even this payload that sets your output to 1080p and unplugs PSVR before use for PSX ITA, because having your output not set to 1080p and having PSVR plugged in, it will potentially cause problems. So it you know, disconnects that stuff for you, sets it all up so you are less likely to run into those black screen issues. And then it has the regular old Linux loader payloads as well. Backup, all different ways to back up your different parts of your system. So you've got app to USB, you know, USB fake packages, dumper auth, VTX dumper for dumping your disks, package file backups, save game backups, database restoring. All those payloads are in there. System tools, you've got Mira, bin loader, avatar dumper, avatar injector, tools, save mounter, Orbis AFR. This is one I haven't seen in pretty much any other WebKit exploit host that's out there. Orbis AFR is like layered FS for the Nintendo Switch. So it basically prevents you from having to create modded updates when you're wanting to patch a game with some modded files. If you're creating, say, Skyrim, let's say you're modding Skyrim, instead of having to make a modded update, you would just create a folder in the data folder of your hard drive with the same CUSA title ID as the game, and then in there you would put in the file structure like data, and then in the data folder you would put your modded Skyrim.ini and your ESP and BSA files, and then you'd run Orbis AFR, and then when you run the game, it will swap out the original files with those modded ones in the data folder, and therefore you get the game modded without having to create a modded system update package file and having to update your game with that modded updates. And then if you don't want the mods, you just don't run Orbis AFR, and therefore the game is normal. So it's really cool. The only reason I haven't covered it is because it's a bit buggy. Sometimes you load it up and you'll try and load the game, and basically what happens is you get a black screen sometimes. So it's not perfect. Maybe one day we'll get a more stable version. So anyway, then we have cheats. So we've got, you know, RTM editor, community trainer, PS4 trainer. These are all the payloads for being able to attach those tools. remotely. So you've got JK Patch, DeathRGH's Toolbox, PS4 Cheater, PS4 API, Debug Watch for the full debugger, GTA 5 menus, pretty much every GTA 5 menu right here available to load. Other menus, these are, I believe, developer menus or debug menus for Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us. And then of course you've got the COD Online payload for LAN play, the PS4 player, and of course caching the site and credits. So yeah, all of that. And there's also these hotkeys, so if you want to quickly launch Hen 1.8 plus VR, you just press L1. You want to launch FTP, the full FTP, then you press R1. So very impressive, and that's publicly accessible right now from those websites. But what I wanted to show you was the next version that they're working on, as they have sent me a preview build of the next version, which is right here. So this is version 1.5.6. It is a beta, so they may improve on it, add more stuff potentially. But just to name a few new things that this version has, and it's not out yet, and it will be out at some point. It will be available to you guys at some point. I'm not sure when, but I assume maybe in a few days or a week or so. Not entirely sure how long it will take them to put this version out, but it will be out at some point. Yeah, so first thing we'll do is cache it before I attempt to use anything on here. So you just do xproject host cache, and there we go, it's been cached. So once it's cached, we can now enable whatever payload. So if we press L2 for the firmware spoofer, that'll load that up, and we just give it a few seconds to load, and then it'll say enter the firmware version you want to spoof as. You select it, it'll come up with a little keypad, and then you just type in whatever firmware you want to spoof as, and then you set firmware, and it will spoof your firmware to that version. So that's one interesting feature, but the main thing I wanted to show you in this new version is of course the fan control. In fact, there's another firmware spoofer in here that I believe spoofs it to 99.99. The purpose of doing something like that is to, again, to avoid updates, or that's one of the reasons anyway. You can, if you spoof your firmware to a higher firmware version than what the latest firmware is, then you'll never be prompted to update to the latest firmware version while you're spoofed, because it thinks you're on a higher firmware version than what's on the PS4 servers, so it's not going to prompt you to update. But fan control, this is the thing I wanted to show you, because this is very impressive and it's well done. It's very well implemented. So basically, if you select fan control, I'll do fan control loading. Then, okay, I got an out of memory error, but it should still load. So yeah, this loads fan control, and then you get this nice scroll bar up here where you can adjust the temperature. So this is the target temperature. It's the temperature that the PS4 is going to try and stay at. It's going to try and stay at that temperature or lower. It doesn't want to go over whatever temperature you set here. So by default, it's set to 79. That is the default in the PS4. It'll normally try and keep the temperature 79 or below. This recommends you set it to 70 degrees, which will mean the fans will kick in a bit faster and it'll try and stay a bit cooler without being too obnoxiously loud. But of course you can go lower, so if we want to really ramp the fan speed up, then we can just grab this scroll bar and drag it right down to 40 degrees and let go. And then as soon as we let go, it says temperature set, and if I shut up, you should hear a jet engine taking off from the runway, or something close to that. So what it's doing, because I set it down to 40 degrees, it's trying to stay at 40 degrees, which is a much lower temperature than the PS4 normally runs at. So the fans are like kicking up into high gear to try and get it down to 40 degrees. And therefore you get a jet engine. So the advantage of this is that it stays nice and cool. Disadvantage is it's loud as hell, so obviously you're not going to want to keep it at this kind of temperature setting. So yeah, you should be able to hear that quite clearly in the mic now. And bear in mind, my PS4 is down under my desk at my feet, so, and you can hear it that loud. So yeah, it's pretty obnoxious. So, yeah, so let's go ahead and drag this up to 70 degrees, which is the kind of recommended. And as soon as I let go of X, you hear the fans basically shut down. You hear the jet power down. So there we go. Really cool implementation. I love the fact you can just drag the bar along and set whatever temperature you want. It's really, really handy. very well implemented as well. You've got this nice little green section to show you this is kind of where you want to be. This is the sweet spot in the green area. 79 is the default at the top, and then red down the bottom because of how loud it gets. Not because the temperature's going to be hot further down here, quite the opposite, but it's just obnoxiously loud. So yeah, really cool implementation of fan speed control right there. So again, this version with the fan speed control is not available yet, but at some point after I upload this video, could be a few days, could be a few weeks, but this version will be released at some point soon in the future, so keep on the lookout for that. In the meantime though, let's actually load up Hen version 1.8, and we'll go ahead and oops, I keep getting this out of memory. But the good thing about this is even if you get out of memory error, it basically tries to reload the payload again until it loads. So that's useful. It's just my WebKit acting up. So anyway, also they have a style changer built into it now. So if you select this XMB styler, so every time you click it here, it will customize the icons and the text to a random RGB value. And then, you know, you can always revert back by selecting this option to revert it back to the default styles. It's also got your IP address down here as well, so you don't have to go into the settings. You know, if you're trying to launch FTP, then the IP address is right there. You don't have to worry about going into the settings to grab your IP address before you load the FTP payload, because it tells you right there. So very useful. So we've loaded Hen 1.8, so I'm going to show you guys Explorer, yeah, Ps4 Explorer, which is the new file manager app. So I'm going to install it using the remote package installer. Of course, you can install it via a USB stick, and then we'll go over to the PC. So over to the PC, this is the self-hoster, the local host version of X project. So assuming when 1.5.6 comes out, this will be available. If I'm sure there's a version of this available already for 1.5.5 maybe, but if not, then 1.5.6 will have a self-host like this. So you just, you know, drag all the X project files into a folder, you run the executable, and it starts hosting it on your computer's IP address. So you just head to your computer's IP address with /index.html on your PS4 browser, and you'll be able to access the site on your PS4 when you're hosting it locally off your PC. And you will have to add an exception in your antivirus firewall, or you know, disable the firewall temporarily while you use it. Otherwise, it will probably get blocked on your network. So make sure you do that if that's causing you any issues. But anyway, so yes, Ps4 Explorer, let's move on. So I've got it right here. Download will be in the description. I'm going to install it using the remote package installer. So all I have to do is drag the package file onto install-package.bat, and then that will launch the server and send the payload. And then if we go back onto the PS4, you can see it's been added to downloads, and then it will be ready to use. I've already done a full tutorial on how to use the remote package installer, how to set it up. So if you're confused about any of that, then check out that video. Link will be on screen and in the description. Also, if you're wanting to install it via a USB stick, you just put that same package file on the root of a USB stick that's formatted in either exFAT or FAT32 format, and then you would install it by running Hen, the Homebrew enabler, and then going into the debug settings, game, package installer, selecting the package file which would show up on your USB, and then installing it that way. So either way you can install it. So here we go, Ps4 Explorer Beta. Alright, here we go. So pretty simplistic design, which is basically exactly what you want. You press X to enter a folder, circle to go back. If you press triangle, you'll have cut, copy, paste, rename, delete options. That's all there. Press circle to go back. If you press the options button, it will tell you all the different button combinations and what they do. So for example, if we press right on the D-pad, it will automatically go to USB 1. If you press left on the D-pad, it will automatically go to USB 0, which makes it very convenient to copy files from your USB device, whether that's an external hard drive or USB stick. You can transfer your files between your USB drive and your PS4's hard drive by quick accessing the USB with left and right on the D-pad, so that's useful. And then let's see how well these options work. So if If I go in here, I grab a file, I press triangle, I can copy the file, just paste it in here. That works absolutely fine. We can delete, and that will delete it. We can copy an entire folder. We can paste the entire folder, and that works. All the files are copied. We can delete the entire folder. That works absolutely fine too. Let's try and cut and paste the file. Yep, that works. How about that? So awesome. If you're wondering what these files are, by the way, I was just trying to get custom maps for Killing Floor 2 to work on PS4, but the format's completely different, so it's it wasn't successful. But yeah, as you can see, those options work absolutely fine. So it's a great file manager. It works pretty well. Not noticed any major bugs or anything. So I do prefer it to the PS4 file manager. Not that that's bad or anything. Not to dig at the file manager for PS4, because this is an older homebrew application. And one thing I do like about this file manager is that it has FTP built in, which PS4 Explorer, I believe, doesn't. Well, certainly, I haven't tried, but it doesn't have like an IP on screen like this does in the bottom right to connect via FTP. So maybe that's something they could add later. The problem with this file manager is, you know, there's quite a few bugs. Now, Lightning Mods, I believe, made this, and there may be a newer version of this file manager for PS4. The one I'm using is still the same version from when I made the video on it, so there might be improvements made to it since then, because this may be an older version. But problem with it is when you scroll with the left stick, it doesn't scroll the page, and when you scroll with the D-pad, it scrolls the page, but you can like scroll the entire menu off screen, which can happen. Plus it's quite confusing when you're trying to copy and paste things. Like if we try and copy KF cube, we press triangle, we copy, and then go back and then paste it in here, and then we get an error because I don't exactly know what I did wrong there, but clearly I did something wrong. I think I have to press A on it first, then copy it, and then go in here and paste. Yep. So, you know, it's not exactly clear and obvious. So yeah, it's just that it's got a bit of a UI interface problem, whereas PS4 Explorer is just better generally to use. It's more convenient, easier to use, more intuitive really. So yeah, anyway, that's it for this video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video or found the information useful. Huge thanks to Default DMB and Lethal for hooking me up with that beta preview build of X Project 1.5.6. Really appreciate it. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one.